Terry Howard, Director of the JFK Assassination Information Center, Dallas, Texas. And with me today is Attorney Carol Jaringen. Nice to be here, Carol.
Thank you. Thank you.
Why don't we go right direct to 1963?
That's fine.
Tell me what you saw.
On October 4 of 1963, I left my office at the request of, at the invitation of the mother of Shirley Malden, the exotic dancer at the Jack Ruby's Club. And later that night, or that day, later came at the request of Shirley Malden's mother, I went with her to the Carousel Club for she wanted to negotiate with Jack Ruby.
Let me ask you a question. Did she have a stage name?
She has a stage name named Robin Hood.
Okay.
We arrived there at the Carousel Club and seated at a table, and a young man came in, and Jack Ruby came by. Shirley Malden identified him. Ruby and a man who was using the word Lee said he's just gotten back from New Orleans. He was talking together. And they were at a table in the corner of the club, very close to the doorway. And what more or less called my attention to them, Ruby said, "What are you doing here, Lee?" And Lee said, "Don't use my real name. I'm using the name of Lee," and he didn't. All right. They were talking about a plan to kill Governor Connelly of Texas.
So you heard this?
I heard them, yes, and they were talking about the mechanism, the place, and the location. And the initial plan was they were going to do it, this young man in the corner was going to do it there from the Carousel Club during some sort of parade, in case the governor came to Dallas.
Right in front of the Carousel?
Right, from the Carousel.
Is that Commerce Street?
Commerce Street, 13 and 1/2 Commerce Street, as I recall. Now then, at a little later stage, Ruby made it clear that the person they really wanted to get rid of was Bobby Kennedy, Attorney General of the United States, and Oswald, the guy using the name Lee, who I later identified clearly and specifically as the same Lee Harvey Oswald, said that the way to get rid of the Attorney General of the United States was to kill his brother, who was president. And Oswald was stating that he would go to Washington, D.C. and take care of killing the Attorney General. And that substantially was their plan, their plot, their conspiracy. The next day, I telephoned the Texas Department of Public Safety at the Ranger headquarters in Dallas, and I telephoned them twice. Once I told them about this businessman named Ruby, who was engaged in a conspiracy to kill the governor of Texas. I did not identify myself. And a few minutes later, I called him back and I said, "You had better call the Secret Service because they are also planning to kill the President of the United States of America." And the man who answered, go ahead.
Identify yourself the second time?
I did not identify myself the second time. This was in the morning after these events. Now, I did not identify myself because I felt like there would be a clear-cut danger. I took this conspiracy, these two people, to be very, very deadly serious. And it took all of my personal determination to even make any telephone call. I would have preferred to just not have heard the thing. And that is substantially what I heard. And the dates are accurate because I made some notes in my office. My birthday is October the 3rd, and Shirley Malden's mother, Robin Hood's mother, had been a good booster of mine. She had gotten a number of clients for me, and when she telephoned, I was always available. There was the initial thing. Her daughter, Robin Hood, had bought a new car in Michigan and was really living in Texas a little bit beyond the 90-day situation to register the car, but she had a booking agent out of St. Louis, and she wanted a little legal advice how to kind of get around the strict registration law, and I was able to tell her, well, if you went over the state line for the weekend, it'd be all right. You know, you haven't really moved in here. And that was the ostensible reason why the mother called, or the reason why the mother called. Now, Jack Ruby had a reputation of feeding some of those girls, and the mother wanted me to go with her to protect her from Jack Ruby.
Negotiating the contract with Jack?
I was not asked by Shirley to negotiate a contract, just to physically be there with her so that what? So that is correct. That is correct.
Did she overhear the conversation too?
She sat at the same table. She was a little bit further away, and she was preoccupied with the girl who was stripping on the stage. She didn't do it right, according to Robin Hood, and she started pulling off. She was going to pulling off some of her clothes, and what I took to be the bouncer came over and sort of subdued her. She was not part of the act. And this was distracting from her hearing the conversation. At a later date, she went over and joined. The three of them were over there.
She did join.
She did join them. The three of them were over there. And specifically, she came back over the table and asked me if I had a recorder there. I had a bottle of Johnny Walker Red Label Scotch whiskey. It was on the table. I said, no, it's not a recorder. Period. And she and I drove her to her, where she lived. And there was another situation on the stairway getting out of there. And Lee Harvey Oswald followed us down these stairs. Looked like he was in a position to probably do something to eliminate a witness, and I positioned a stripper between he and I. Stuck my hand in the coat and made it look like a gun in his throat, and got her out on the sidewalk and crossed the street in the middle of the block and went a quarter block up and then crossed back the street to get to the parking lot where we're going.
Did you see where he went?
I did not. I was trying to keep her between me and him for selfish, self-protection reasons. And the thing that had given me immediate concern when she asked if there was a tape recorder there. And that is substantially it. I have told this story to the true story to the Federal Bureau of Investigation and to about 28 investigators. I have not retracted. I do not retract. I will not retract. And I would like to add one thing. As a result of reading some of the investigative books that have been written in regard to the Kennedy assassination, the little statement by the initial statement by the Central Intelligence Agency that Oswald was photographed outside the Russian embassy in Mexico City on October 5, the Central Intelligence Agency has withdrawn that. Oswald said he had just gotten back from New Orleans.
That's what you want to point.
At the table, that is correct. That is correct.
Is Shirley still alive? Did you know of her?
Shirley was alive. The last contact word that I had about her, the Federal Bureau of Investigation talked with her, and she acknowledged that I was an intelligent lawyer and that she and I were in the Carousel Club, and that she talked to Ruby. She did not hear what I said to her.
Did you know Jack Ruby prior to what happened?
not directly, a Northwestern law professor came to my office. He had gone BIA SMU School of Law and offered to present credentials, and he indicated that Lyndon Bank Johnson asked him to look at the matter. It was, he didn't say he was from the Warren Commission. He didn't exactly say he was, you know, from President Johnson. But
what about the House Select Committee in '78?
they came out here and talked with me a couple of times. And interestingly, their recorder didn't work the first time. And they asked me whether or not I wanted to appear before the House Committee. And the way their questions had run was not based solely upon identification of a photograph as being that of Lee Harvey Oswald. I mean, I'd already given that information. And interestingly enough, and I will put this in reading one of the investigative books, shortly before the House Select Committee on Assassinations interviewed the Russian Marchand. He committed suicide with a long-barreled rifle or a shotgun or some such thing. That was in Florida. What? That is correct. And let's throw that in. I'm a little bit sensitive about witnesses committing suicide with long-barreled rifles.
Well, you know, you're not the only one that saw Jack Ruby, someone that at least looked like him.
That is correct.
There's quite a few.
I do want to add another thing. There is a lawyer who telephoned me from Temple, Texas, named Ted Potter, licensed lawyer who was, he was a social acquaintance with one of the girls who danced in the Jack Ruby Club, and she, kept crying that they are going to kill me because I saw too much about the conspiracy between Ruby and Oswald.
You saw too much, or she saw too much?
And she saw too much. This is according to what Ted Potter told me over the telephone.
He's still alive?
As far as I know, he's in Temple, Texas, alive and practicing law.
You heard the girl's name?
He said one of the strippers, and I do not know whether he meant the same one that I was in there with or a different one. I do not know.
Certainly interested in talking to your father, and also to your mother, because she did pictures of her on stage at the Carousel. It's been 30 years this year since this all happened. What's your feeling after all this time?
I haven't changed anything, and I am just as certain today as I was 30 years ago. In the course of the practice of law, I have to keep a rather clear mind. And I do claim to have rather close to Powers 100% recall. And I have not changed my story, and I do not change my story. And that's just the way the facts are, or at least that is what I saw, what I overheard.
You saw what you saw.
I did.
You heard what you heard.
I did. And I have never changed.
You think the Warren Commission lied to us?
I think the Warren Commission willfully and deliberately avoided adequately investigating the killing for the theory that it would disturb the American public. That was the theory that Chief Justice Earl Warren used. And I just throw this in, whatever it is worth. The Federal Bureau of Investigation works under the supervision of the Justice Department of the United States of America. The head of the Justice Department is the Attorney General of the United States of America, and nobody's brother can investigate the killing of their brother with any degree of objectivity whatsoever. I say that in all fairness to the Federal Bureau of Investigation and to the Justice Department. Period.
If we have broadened your interest in the files you just seen, we're going to release more files shortly. If you'd like to contact us, our phone number is area code 214-871-2770. Or if you wish to write to us, it's JFK AIC 603 Munger, Box 40, Dallas, Texas 75202.